Hey everybody, welcome back to D&J's Epic Quest. It is D-Hole, and alongside me is Jug. I had to think about it because I was like, fuck, what's my name again?
You're getting better. You're getting better.
I will say, the times I've said Doug, I've been very confident in it, so...
I think it's because at the beginning we were like, oh, we should do this, and then we finally settled on it, and by that time it was like halfway through the book already, so...
Whatever.
What do you do?
Anyways, we are your friends, and we are the hosts of the only chapter-by-chapter Malazan read-through podcast coming from completely first-time readers.
The first-time perspective.
That's right.
It's great.
It is fun. And today, we've got Midnight Tides, Chapter 16 for you.
That's right.
This is a pretty good chapter, I think.
Yeah, it's definitely one to talk about. Lots of shit that happens.
Yeah. Well, how was your 4th of July, man? I feel like we haven't really had a chance to catch up or talk much lately, so.
Look, I mean, it rained. I think they canceled the fireworks show and pushed it off till a little bit later, I think, because there was a big thunderstorm. I didn't really do anything. I just kind of sat inside and
didn't watch fireworks.
It's a little anticlimactic for me, so I usually don't partake. You know, the kids like it though, so. But I didn't have kids this year, so.
Oh, I'm not for the 4th.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
You? What'd you do?
We were at my sister's husband's family's place out just outside of Boston. It was a fast trip, and it was hot. I wish I would have had a little more time. I texted Damien saying I was going to be out that way, but things just weren't going to align for me to like get a chance to meet him and, you know, have a beer with him or something and hang out. We just too short a time, too much stuff going on, and I don't think I was super terribly far from him, but not probably quite close enough, I don't think. So, but it was a good time.
Was that a plane ride? Or I don't remember you telling me you were going anywhere.
Oh, I didn't tell you? I thought I told you.
Maybe. I mean, it's coming as a surprise to me. But, maybe I'm just a bad friend and I don't remember shit, you know?
Well,
I mean, it could go both ways, right?
It could be, yeah. I don't know. I feel like we talked about it. Maybe we didn't. No, we flew out there. We left Wednesday night and we didn't get there till like 3 a.m. Our flight didn't leave that late, but it did get delayed. And then there was thunderstorms. Yeah, then there was thunderstorms that we had to like navigate around. That added some more time, and by the time we got our rental car, and you know, then we had an hour drive from Boston to get where we were going. It was like 3 a.m. when we got there, and then we flew home. So we got there, basically Thursday morning, if you want to call it that, and then we flew home Sunday morning. We were supposed to fly out at 6:30, but didn't end up taking off till closer to 7:30, so we got delayed there too. So Saturday was rough because didn't sleep much, and then getting up early to go to the airport and all that funness.
I feel like that's what makes quick trips so unenjoyable for me. It's just the quick turnaround time. Like, whoop, now we gotta go. All right, bye.
Yeah, I mean it was hot though. It was pretty hot, but it was a good time, and it was fun to go somewhere. I haven't been out there before, so.
Nice.
Yep.
Let's take me next year.
I don't think they will have that house next year. It's her husband. I don't know. Whoever's house it was, that person died, so it got passed off to somebody else in the family who doesn't want anything to do with it, is going to sell it.
Hmm.
So,
Okay, fair enough. Well, maybe we'll buy a house in Boston.
this house needed, I mean, I don't know how old the house was, but all the houses in this like neighborhood, it wasn't on the ocean, it's on the Cape. When they sell it, it'll probably go for $1 million just based on the location. The house needs a lot of work. Like it probably needs a couple. I would think at least $100,000 put into it just to like renovate it.
That bad, huh?
But if you're buying $1 million house, then I guess what's another $100,000? So
Only 10%.
maybe it's more than that. I don't know. I mean, I know how percents work, but it might need more than $100,000. I don't know what it would cost. Quite a bit. I mean, it's an old house. All the houses in that neighborhood were old, but it was kind of neat. I got to have some had some clam chowder. Didn't have a lobster roll.
New England clam chowder.
Yeah, I had to have some while I was there. That was
puts them in the drawer.
Yeah.
Get in the car.
Yeah. Luckily, I think the accent thing is probably overplayed a lot.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Like it's the same thing for us here in Minnesota. Yeah, it wasn't that bad.
You betcha. You get your ghost and your boots, and then you go and get on the boat. Yeah, it's not like that at all.
It wasn't that bad. No, but there were some people from New York, and I mean, that wasn't exaggerated at all. But because one guy was from Staten Island, and another lady was from the Bronx. You're like, okay, well, I can tell where you're from just by listening to you. The Boston wasn't as prevalent as I thought. You see in like TV shows and movies and stuff.
Yeah. Well, what did you say? Should we see our chain of patrons are doing?
We should. I kind of bullshitted you enough there, so.
I don't know what to say. I feel like we could talk for a whole hour about all this stuff, but I don't know if anybody out there wants to listen to that. So
probably not really.
I mean, I guess that's what behind the scenes footage is for.
Yeah. Our chain of patrons, we have Jan the Picker, Luciana Etrigan, Ryan the Topological, Damien Facing the Rock, Nate Fiddle Me This, Shield Anvil Dylan, Kelvin He Who Witnessed, Livia the Malazan Potato, Aaron Mott Irregular, Scott the Only, Graceless Passion, Dead Smell, Gestriant, Alex the High Mage, Tyler the Great Raven, The Joyful Union, Tony the Watch, Steve Bottle Kegs, The Mortal Sam, John I'd Kill the Mule, Talk the Middle Child, Peter, Turin I Have Kittens, Brian Bug, and Mari of the Green Aja. Thank you, one and all.
Yes, thank you. All right, Chapter 16, Epigraph. The old drainage trench had once been a stream, long before the huts were knocked down and the overlords began building their houses of stone. Rubble and foul silts formed the banks, crawling with vermin. But there in my chest, some dark fire flamed in quiet rage as I walked the track seeking the lost voice, the voice that freed watery flow, the pebbles beneath the streaming tongue. Oh, I knew so well those smooth stones, the child's treasure of comforting form, and the way when dried, a single drop of tear or rain could make the color blossom once more, the found recollection of its home. This child's treasure, and the child was me, and the treasure was mine, and mine own child this very morning, I discovered. Kneeling smeared on the rotting bank, playing with the shards of broken pots that knew only shades of gray no matter how deep and how streaming these tears. Before Trate, nameless Fent.
I don't have a fucking clue on any of that.
I'm assuming it's maybe like an anticipatory thing before the Edur come in and lay waste and devastation. So, could be wrong.
Could work. Yeah. I think it could work for sure. I had nothing otherwise, so it did not resonate with me at all.
Yeah, that's a very, very wild stab in the dark.
Sometimes you connect, though.
Well, sometimes.
That knife will find flesh. All right, section 1 here. Dreams could pass between the blinks of a man's eyes, answered by a wild casting about. An unstoppable flood of emotions. Udinus had slid down onto a ledge, his arms and legs stiff and aching, The sun had dropped lower only by a little bit, and behind him in a heap was Featherwitch, two halves of a broken tile falling from her hand. Her hair hid her face, hid the emotions written on it. Udinus wanted to scream and let loose his grief and the anger under it. He wondered what was new and being used. Nothing to reach for. Udinus looked around. He noticed the army was on the move and something had changed. He said they needed to return. Featherwitch bitterly asked, "To what?" And Udinus said, what they were before. She said slaves, and Udinus said yes. Featherwitch said she had now tasted it. Udinus looked at Featherwitch and told her she could not live like this. She looked away and asked, why not? Udinus figured she didn't want to understand. He only told her they would march to Trate. Featherwitch surmised that they would conquer and enslave. Udinus said these were only details and that man wanted her. Featherwitch told Udinus she beats her. Udinus said he knew. She had not done a good job of hiding the bruises. Featherwitch continued saying she tears off her clothes, uses her in ways that hurt, and she hurts all the time. Udinus says he, or Rulad, doesn't do that to her, or man. Not that there was much tenderness to their relationship. He was too young for that, and she doesn't seem to have the power to take charge and teach him. She's frustrated. Featherwitch told him to knock it off. She didn't care about her point of view. She doesn't want to step into her shadow. She didn't want to see things her way. None of that matters when she twists and bites. She told Udinus to quit talking. He told her to take his hand. It was time. Featherwitch said she would rather bite her hand off. Maybe it was his, I don't remember. She wanted to bite a hand off. Udinus knew this but said nothing. Featherwitch said Rulad didn't hurt man. Udinus said, not physically. Featherwitch slowly looked up into his eyes and said, yet what he does to her is what she does to him. Udinus said she would still rather bite. He pulled her to her feet and told her he would go down first and she should wait a bit. An army kicked up on the forest floor. To the north, ashes of their homes. To the south, Trate. There would be vengeance. He thought these were only details. Kind of an ominous start here to the chapter.
Why do you say ominous?
Just, it's, my first comment here, it doesn't seem to have like the horror vibes that we've seen in a lot of like the openings of other chapters, but it kind of maybe feels more like the aftermath of one of those scenes to me, and just kind of Featherwitch's attitude on things seems ominous to me.
Well, you know why though, right?
I'm not sure if I know what you're going for.
Because this is literally the second after they get back from the like dream world where they meet Udinas's kid.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're a little bitter about some things that they found out.
Gotcha. I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So like they're just a little irritated. And then Featherwitch adds on top of everything her current plight. Udinas already having the perspective of, well, it's not really much we can do about it, but at least it's not as bad as it could be.
Yeah, I guess maybe we should have. I kind of forgot about this until we started going, but content warnings, I guess, maybe for this chapter, because there is talk and, I guess, allusions to sexual assault, rape. I felt like there was something else too, and I can't remember what it is right now. But it's that type.
Child abuse.
Yes, there you go. So if that stuff, just be forewarned that we'll be talking about that stuff as tastefully as we can with that type of subject matter. Not something we would joke about, not that.
No.
But so on that note, my next thought here, Featherwitch tells Udinus that she, or man, beats her, right? I really hate to word it this way, but do we believe her? Have we seen anything on the page to support this? Is there something that I'm just not remembering? So it just seems like this is coming just out of thin air.
I mean,
not to say that it couldn't, but I don't, if there was something that happened, I'm not remembering it.
Or it coincides with, it being a new thing, right? Like, Mayan and Rulad is a pretty new thing. So maybe the beatings are also a new thing. what she's explaining is also a new thing. But I would agree with you. I can't recollect much information that has been given to us that would suggest that this is ongoing.
I didn't think so, but I wasn't positive. Continuing off of that, Udina says Rulad doesn't do that to man. Not that there is much, tenderness to the relationship. He's too young, and she's not powerful enough, strong enough to take charge and teach him, and she's frustrated. And I was like, oh, I guess that means sexually frustrated, just from what we know from other chapters with Rulad. So,
yes, I think on top of being, I think sexually frustrated is probably maybe at the bottom of the pile, because this tells me that she's in a relationship and a marriage she does not want. She's frustrated.
I guess that could be true too. Yeah, I don't know. It's a slippery slope.
It kind of highlights, the jackassery of Rulad. These are the consequences for him deciding to just be a giant asshole. But nobody can say anything because he's the emperor, right?
Yeah, true. I guess just like the other side of that is just where it says that she doesn't have the power to take charge and teach him.
Right.
Is kind of what led me down that path there. And then so Featherwitch, she tells him to knock it off, right? She doesn't care about any other point of view, doesn't want to step into her shadow. And I just thought, or she doesn't want to walk in her shadoh.
Because that's the third book in the Carcanas trilogy?
I think so, yeah.
A Walk in Shadow?
I kind of, there might not have been a line there, but I drew it anyways.
What are lines?
Right.
Funny. What do you think it means to walk in her shadow?
For Featherwitch to walk in man's, I guess I would feel like it would mean she would have to be in a relationship with Udinus then.
Yeah. Don't we get a little, isn't your last comment kind of surround this a little bit?
Take it away, ma'am.
Oh, I really don't have anything. I'm just
fishing?
Fishing, right? Yeah.
Gotcha. No bites today.
No bites at all.
I guess, yeah, as far as my last comment here, Featherwitch looks at Udinus and says what he does to her. So I think how I took this, what Udinus does to Mayan, right?
What Udinus does to Mayan?
No.
Oh.
What Rulad does to Mayan. I don't know. I should have probably been a little bit more specific on my comment there because I don't remember which way it went, but basically where I was going with my thought is just, sometimes you should just be kind and things get better when you're kind.
Right.
I hope.
Compassion.
Or I like to think. Yeah.
Compassion is key. So he doesn't hurt her, does he? And then Udinus said, no, not physically. And then she was just like, yes, what he does to her, she looked up, searching his eyes, I do to you. So basically what...
It's more like verbal or...
Right, yeah. So what Rulad does verbally to Mayan, Featherwitch does to Udinus.
Yes. Yeah, she tears his head off. She's pretty quick on the draw with him, pretty short-tempered.
I don't know. It's like this weird, like, self-discovery from Featherwitch. I never really would have, like, I've just kind of always seen her as snarky and obtuse and rude, and I don't know. It's just like weird, like, admittance. Like, yeah, I'm kind of a jerk to you.
Yeah.
But Udinus is like, yeah, whatever. I know.
I don't care. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Udinus is just, I don't know, he's such a cool character.
I don't know what to make of him. I don't really know how to feel one way or the other. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I feel the same way. The anticipatory position he's in, where he really could teeter either way anyway. And so that maybe anxiety about what his fate is has got me so gravitated to it.
I'm curious how things will play out for him still.
Yes. Interesting introduction, right? Kind of brings us back from where Udinus and Featherwitch came from. And now we move on to some of the aftermath of Troll's involvement.
I'm ready. Ready if you are.
All right. Troll observed some movement down slope. Then it was gone. He scanned for a moment longer and then sat back down. He said that they have been discovered. Alrata An grunted and asked what they should do. Troll looked around, barely making out his warriors. He said to An that it depended on whether the Lethri would advance. So they waited. Somewhere in the forest below was a cadre of mages that had detected the presence of the Edur, positioned to defend the bridge. The mages would be hard at work trying to figure out how many Edur there were, but that would be difficult because something in the blood of the Edur eluded the sorceress' efforts. For the Lethri, a decision would need to be made, and that also depended on the type of commander. The commander that played it cautious would mean that they would have to get close enough to get exact Edur numbers. Getting too close, though, meant that they could get bitten. Adding on that the Edur held the high ground could prove disastrous. Another could be that the commander asks the cadre of mages to unleash a sorcerer's attack. The downfall of this, though, as it would expose the mages to the cadre of warlocks, wraiths, and demons waiting to take them out. Lastly, the commander could choose to pull back, yield the bridge, and head back to High Fort. If the commander was overconfident and rash, then Troll and Sengar and his warriors would be obliterated or forced back to the other side of the bridge. This would be disastrous for Henradi's advancing warriors. A contested crossing of the bridge would force Fear and Henradi to unveil the full extent of their power, a power that was meant to shatter the defenders of High Fort. The opposite side of that coin, though, if the commander were timid, that would ensure Edor's success. Troll edged his way back to the tree fall to take another glance. Alrata said that if the Lethri don't engage soon, they'll lose their advantage. Troll nodded. They were sufficient enough concerns to occupy his mind. He decided that this was preferable, a relief. He told himself that he could stay here. It will take him through this war. It has to. A whisper of sound behind him, and then wraiths were all around them. Alrata is heard saying that they have arrived. Troll slid back down. He saw a silver-haired wolf padding its way towards him, a twisting of air accompanied by a spicy scent, and Troll found himself staring into the eyes of Banaga. The Jek informs Troll that the Lethri below are in full retreat. Alrata tells Banaga that he made good time. The Jek grinned and said that the warriors were 2,000 paces from the bridge. He also asked about the body they had found back there and asked if it was their work. Troll said that the boy was an advanced scout. Banaga reveals that the Lethri mages had tied a thread to the Fared boy. They knew the Edur were coming. No doubt it slowed them more. Alrata asked if they should contest the Lethri retreat. Banaga said that it was a thought, but said that the wraiths will hound them, and by the time the Lethri reach High Fort, they will be so tired and won't get time to rest. He crouched and said that he had news. He shares that First Maiden Fort has fallen, there was no battle, and the garrison that was stationed there had already fled back to Fent Reach. Troll said that this was already anticipated. The Jek agreed and added that if the Lethri chose to make a stand, it will be a short siege. Even as they speak, their ships have made landing and their warriors march on the city. Troll was surprised and asked if there was no contact with the Lethri fleet. Banaga said none, and the Emperor's forces are positioned above Trate, undetected. Within the next few days, there will be 4 major battles, and sword willing, the northern frontier will fall. Troll thought to himself that at the very least, they would have their full attention.
Well, you've got my full attention.
Oh, yeah? How so?
I'm listening to you.
Oh. Okay, that's fine.
You walked right into it. Come on, Dad.
I know. I'm just trying to be like, a little more professional.
Oh, okay. I'll try to. As I drink my beer.
Ooh, strike number 1.
Yeah, I ran 2 miles today. I earned it.
Oh, nice. Hell yeah, dude. I guess the first thing that I have is this part where we are told that the Edur have the ability to elude sorceress efforts in their blood. I'm assuming that this is only like efforts in questing, right? Like if you're an Edur, Derek, and I'm trying to find you, and I'm using a sorceress means to do so, I'm not going to be able to detect you. Didn't we learn in House of Chains that Karza has an ability to thwart sorcerer's efforts because of his blood?
Yes, I think you're right. And I thought it was because that he has like trace amounts of otateral in his blood. Because what did they call it? They mined their rock or whatever.
The Edur or the
No,
Tablar?
the Teblar.
Yeah, it's blood oil.
I thought there was like a different form of it too, but you could be right on that. But
something about the trees, I think. Yeah,
basically the same thing. Yeah, I thought they like, they had this quarry of this stuff. Yeah, I think you're. I don't think that's what this is, but
do you think it's like an otateral substance, or could it be just because their magic is based on shadows and illusions?
I would say it's probably more that.
That's what I would say too. But
or it's something along those lines, whatever it is.
But if it is, otateral, then it's hard not to think that maybe there's a connection between Karsa and the Edur somehow. Potentially, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
It was just a weird thing. Like, do you think it could be this or could it be that?
Nice catch, because I definitely didn't catch that reading it. Well, I read the chapter 3 times. I reread it last night.
I feel like there's a few of those in here I think you were excited to get to recording because you had a couple for me too. So hopefully maybe they're the same.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't look at your comments, so you might be on the trail already. But
I didn't look at yours either, so I have no idea.
I got this. I was listening to our episode on chapter 14, and that's where I drew this connection from that I will tell you about at some point if you do not bring it up.
Okay.
I think it's something in your section, one of your sections, but I'm not positive. It could be in one of mine.
Fair enough. My next comment, Troll is banking on the fact that he is so distracted with battle strategies and, what the enemy is going to do next and anticipatory measures and movements that he's not allowed to have any thoughts for himself, his family, his beliefs. And I just think that that's kind of like a sad state to be in.
I don't know what I took away from that, but it's not what you were thinking. But like now that you talk about it, I see it and it makes sense how you get there. And I don't know why it just didn't connect with me. But I think at the same time, like if you're in a state of war, that's probably how you have to be a good chunk of the time, right? Like you got to be focused on whatever your mission is,
right?
And
yeah,
like I'm sure, yeah, your family and that type of thing, they're going to be in the back of your mind. But they can't, I don't think they can be at the front of your mind so that you lose focus and you miss something or you don't react to something the way you should have, or whatever the case is. You gotta be pretty focused.
Yeah, and that applies to whether your, family is agreeing with a psychopathic emperor or you're just maybe having marital problems, right? Like the spectrum of that ideology and that mindset is very wide. So you're 100% right.
Thanks.
Last thing, and this is maybe another one of those small little like, kind of what we were talking about. But Naga is saying, and the sword willing. And I thought this was really clever because he's saying the sword willing because he's referring to the sword that Rulad is wielding. Just a beautiful addition to who and what to the Jahak or the Hack, Jack, whatever, find to be their god. The sword, and by extension, their crippled god. Or vice versa. By saying the sword willing, that tells me that that is their god.
I kind of thought maybe they're just like a warrior people, and so it's like a live by the sword, die by the sword type thing. So just sword willing. I guess I didn't attribute any specific sword to it like you did.
Maybe. Well, I mean, the Jek were after they were protecting the sword. I think is what
or they wanted it. One of the two. Yeah. So yeah, good point. Good point.
Yeah. I think that they were protecting it. 'Cause I'm going to go with that sword has probably been there for a very long time.
Probably a hot minute, yeah.
Do you think that this is how, now that I'm thinking about this, do you think that this is how the crippled god is starting to get power? Right? He has Withel make him a sword. He plops the sword into a populated but barren wasteland, and then starts to get people to worship the sword.
Interesting. I don't know.
I mean, just a thought.
Or he just makes deals with them and lies to them.
Yeah, there's a big gotcha kind of at the end regarding the things the crippled god can do. So I don't know if you'll be like, you'll probably be like, Justin, this is so fucking stupid. But I'm gonna say it anyway. But maybe you'll agree. Maybe. But I have a feeling you'll probably be like, nah, dude, that's you're grasping at shit. But we'll find out. We will find out.
Well, ready to move on?
Sure am.
All right. Blind drunk. That was a description that Seren wanted to explore with all the murky intent of a mind poisoned into stupidity. But somehow she was failing. Instead of being blind, she was painfully aware of the figures on all sides of her table. The stupidity hadn't shown up yet and might not, as sobriety held its grip on her no matter how much she drank. There were predictions of greed and eagerness to unleash on the field of battle, crowded with dead Edur. They thought it was fine to give them first maiden fort, draw them in deeper. They'd seen what the cadre had done. They'll do it again against the ashen-faced bastards. One dude had a perch halfway up the lighthouse and would have a great view. Another person said it would be over at Fent Reach. They'll get punched in the nose, then the cadre will hit the fleet in the Catter Sea. They let themselves get surrounded, another said. Twilight is just waiting for the siege to set in. They didn't surrender. What kind of lies had he been hearing? He was a traitor like Hull Bedict, and traitors need to be taught a lesson. She was headed towards the door, and a man said, sitting alone was no good. She should let a man take her away from all of this. She just looked up at him. The man said nothing important was being said here. If she wants to sit here and drink, then do that. He was only offering a quieter place to do that. She told him to go away. Instead, the man sat down next to her and said he'd been watching her all evening, and she was just another Letheri. He had asked himself that only once, but someone else had told him who she was. Aquator Seren Pedic. She was up at the treaty that went bad. She was under contract with Baruch the Pale, the guy that hung himself, and she had found. He thought that was a hard thing, so no wonder she was sitting here drinking, trying to get drunk. No wonder it wasn't working. She looked at him and said he wasn't Letheri, and he told her she had that right. And no offense, but he was glad of it. What he was, she hadn't heard of. He was a long ways away from home. She asked what he wanted. He said he was making an offer, but it needed to be done somewhere a little more quiet. Seren started to talk, and then the man caught himself and said, no, not like that. And he would consider his luck to be going up if it happened the way she was thinking. He leaned in and beckoned her closer. She leaned in with a smile and said she couldn't wait. The man said her breath smelled like a vineyard, but they had a boat, and they were leaving this pock on Hood's ass of a kingdom. She asked where they were headed. Corshan? Pilot Truce? Colonnades? The man said there was no point in those. The first three are paying tribute to leather, and they hear Colonnades is a mess. The world is a lot bigger than she thinks. She asked if he was sure. She said it was smaller than she thought and asked who he was. The man said just someone a long ways away from home. They had just clawed their way out of a sale, only to end up here. And just for showing up here, they owed money. Stepping onto the dock, they owed more money. It'd been 7 months and they were in debt up to their eyeballs that Prince Kaaz couldn't get them out of. They were doing ugly work and living off scraps. She said he was a soldier. The man said he still was. She told him to join a brigade. He rubbed his eyes for a moment, then gave her a cool look and said it was like yelling at the abyss with them, and no one and not one Letheri was listening. They are in serious trouble. Fentreach surrendered. Twilight is a smart commander, so what made her do that? Seren said Twilight saw it was hopeless. No way to defend the city, no way to retreat. He told her she wasn't there when the harvest ships returned. She didn't see what delivered them, but he did. And if Dinrabi worshipped a god, then that's what this was. Seren didn't know what a Dinrabi was. He said they had room for people worth their salt, and she wouldn't be the only woman. It wasn't like that. Seren asked why her. The man said because she wasn't blind. She smiled and leaned back and asked who he was. The man said it wouldn't matter. She wouldn't know him. Seren insisted on a name. He said Iron Bars, 2nd Blade, 4th Company, Crimson Guard. Seren said it was meaningless and long. She was impressed, but she said she wasn't interested in what he had to offer. He told her to think on it. There was enough time for that if she got out of Trate soon enough. She said that didn't make sense. He said she would be right, if their boat was here in the harbor, but it's in Letheris. They signed on as a crew through an agent, and as soon as they were out to sea, Seren finished the sentence and said they would kill the captain and mates and become pirates. Ironbar said they wouldn't kill anyone if there was another way. They just wanted to get home. They need to get home. If it works out, they would look for her in Letheris. She said he would be wasting his time. Ironbar said between here and there, a lot was going to change. He said to get out of the city as soon as possible, as soon as she sobers up. Just go. Then Ironbars was gone. She thought to herself what had happened to him. He was caught in the alley, and they were sewing up his mouth. She was going to watch. Just his mouth. He was a traitor. No reason to go easy on him. Sew him up everywhere. She wished it was Hall. Then she thought they would do a lot worse to him. Okay, so a couple of these spots, it probably didn't summarize it very well, but I don't know if Seren is like hallucinating, or she's like playing conversations in her head or something, like imaginary conversations. And that's kind of what was happening at the end here, I think.
No, she's overhearing the patrons at the bar talk. And one of them at the beginning is talking about some dude who is a traitor, like Hull.
Oh, I kind of thought
think they go sew up his mouth because they don't like that he's a traitor, like Hull.
I thought it was just something she was kind of imagining in her head or something, just dealing with the noise. But
I think,
I guess,
yeah, I think we could both agree that she's drunk or have been drinking.
Well, for sure. I don't think she's as drunk as she wanted to be, but
I guess maybe I think that she's drunk, she's hurt, and she's zoning out, and so like she's just listening to all these people, and that's kind of what the beginning of this section is trying to accentuate with all of the indistinct chatter.
Well, and like in the book, it was italicized and stuff. So like that's kind of what made me think it was like in her head or something, or thoughts that she was maybe playing out a scenario or something. I'm not sure, but
no, it's just background noise. She's just listening to background noise. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that was the intent.
Gotcha. What I wanted to bring up is also in this section, or it's where I'll bring it up anyways, because it fits. But first thought here is just, I think I took this first sentence basically word for word out of the book. Blind drunk, that was the description that Seren wanted to explore with all the murky intent of a mind poisoned into stupidity. And I know she's grieving here, right? But this, I just thought was such a good line to describe somebody, getting drunk.
Drowning one's sorrow, right? No, that was so beautifully crafted.
Before I go on to my next thing here, I will say, like, when I read this, and I don't remember if there was much description of the character in this section. Later there was, and I caught it on my last read. But the whole time that Iron Bars is talking to Seren, the way he was talking, I was like, this has got to be fucking Quick Ben. Like, I'm like, it must be Quick Ben. That's who we're going to see. And then we meet this other dude named Iron Bars. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know who you are, but that's cool.
It's really funny, the whole Quick Ben thing, because I don't know if you saw, and I probably didn't share with you, but there was There was a comment in one of our Dead House Gates episodes where the commenter was like, "What's with everybody being quick, Ben? I don't understand why that's a thing. Why is that a logical progression?" And then I replied, and I'm like, "You're right, but it does becoming an ongoing joke." And then he responds like a couple days later, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm in Memories of Ice episodes now, and I can see."
That's funny.
Yeah, when you get to this episode, you'll see you'll have another time, a good time with it. I feel like it does digress a little bit as we've moved on to the series, or I have rather. But yeah, no, I didn't get but I think also that this is also the spoiler that I had mentioned last episode is the Crimson Guard part
Gotcha.
was
Well,
what was revealed to me, and I'm like, what?
I was not. I was reading the chapter. I was like, I didn't know what would have really been a spoiler, so I still had to ask you. But yeah, I feel like it's been a minute since we've had a good quick bend conspiracy. So
Yeah, we gotta get them all right.
yeah, like Pokemon.
Gotta get them all. Quick Ben man.
Anyway, so the thing I wanted to bring up, Iron Bars is talking about they have a boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was listening to chapter 14, and I was like,
Yep.
oh, do you know where I'm going with this?
Oh, with Shirk
No,
Alal.
no.
No, where are you going?
I would be like positive that this is Tahol's boat.
Yeah, Shirk and
Oh, okay. I forgot they
are
were on the boat.
going to be pirates. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, I forgot.
yeah.
Okay, so we're kind of on the same track then. Okay. I forgot about that part. But I just, because we were talking about how Tahol has a boat or a benefactor or something has a boat, like, it may or may not be in his name or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I bet this is the boat that Iron Bars is on. So that was kind of
Mm.
my big, like, revelation in my head. Maybe it's not that big a deal.
I honestly didn't connect the two. Yeah, you could be right. So then that would mean that Shirk and who are the other two? Harlist and Ublala, right? Yeah, Big Dung. Yes.
Big Dong Hoopala.
Big Dung, Ublala, Shirk, Harlist, and Seren are all going to be in the company of the Crimson Guard. So I would imagine that maybe when we read Return of the Crimson Guard, maybe they will be there. Maybe there will be, people that we know of.
Maybe. Yeah,
Yeah.
now that we have this introduction, I'm like more excited to read the novels of the Malazan Empire.
Yeah.
I don't
Because it
remember
kind
which
of
one we
seems
start with, but
yeah, the novels of the Malazan Empire kind of like weave in and out of the main 10, like Steven Erickson wrote the Foundation, right? Well, I mean, they both came up with the Foundation, but he eventually wrote the Foundation, and then Esselmont kind of weaves his way in and out. Yeah, I'm just excited. Like, I'm really looking forward to getting a conclusion to this epic book, and then a nice little palate cleanser, and then we'll read our first Esselmont novel, and then we'll get back to Bone Hunters. So
yeah.
yeah.
My last thought here was just a kind of a penis joke, but Seren said we get Iron Bar's introduction, right? Second Blade, Fourth Company, Crimson Guard, and she's like, "Yep, that's meaningless and long." And I was like, "Hey-o."
I don't think she was talking about his dick though.
I know, but that was
No.
just like in my like
So you
and
took
long.
it. Yeah.
I went there. But now that you brought up I think if we started a band, we'd have to be Malazan themed, and it would be Big Dong Ooblala and the Quick Bend Conspiracy would be the band name.
We did do something with band members, Malazan related, but I don't think
Oh
we ever
yeah,
did Malazan name. So that would be the name of our Malazan band.
yeah.
Yeah. Say it again one more time.
Big Dog Ooblala and the Quick Bend Conspiracy.
Big Dong Ublala Pung and the Quick Ben Conspiracy. Oh god, that's funny shit. Okay. All right. Well, if you're ready, I'm ready for this next one.
I'm ready. Just a little bit of levity there for you, a little bit of
Yeah.
laughter. So
Yeah, there's some dark times coming up, so we might need that life.
yeah, that's true. I'm ready though. Go ahead, man.
All right. Nicole Barra stood atop the lighthouse tower and was staring out to sea. Nothing was going to plan. Even their preemptive strike did nothing but destroy empty villages. The entire population of the Edur were on the move. She thought to herself that they were headed right to their doorstep. The fleet of Edur ships that appeared in Cater Sea prepared to prevent the retreat of Twilight's garrison. They simply moved on when the city was surrendered, and now they were headed for Trade Harbor. Beneath those sails was a thing, ancient and terrible, eager with hunger. It knew this path. It had been here before. Since that time, and by the Sita's command, she had dived deep into the origin of the creature bound to the Edur. The harbor and the bay beyond used to be dry land, a massive limestone shelf, and beneath were vast rivers. Erosion of the limestone had caused deep wells to form. The water formed inside of those wells because the porous nature of the limestone was blocked by matter, causing the water to appear black and still. Long ago, one such well became a place of worship. Treasures and living sacrifices were tossed into the depths. A spirit was created. She knew there were mysteries to this. For example, did the spirit exist before this well had formed and was just drawn to the gifts offered to it? Or was it brought into existence by those ancient worshippers? It didn't really matter the beginnings of the spirit, for either way, it had become an addict for blood, grief, and terror. Those worshippers disappeared, whether died out or just simply left. If it hadn't been seas rising, the spirit would have been doomed in the deep well. Now the spirit had no walls to contain it and was free to roam all that lay beyond. The shore was a place of worship the world over. The first documentation of this was from the First Empire, who made note of this phenomenon amongst people they encountered. The space between land and sea was symbolic between the known and unknown, life and death, spirit and mind. Lives had been given to the sea, treasures flung into its depths. Out on the water itself, ships and crews were dragged to its depths, time and time again. For all that, the spirit had competition, and Nicole Barra suspected that it didn't fare well in that competition. Weakened and suffering, the spirit sought out to return to its original well to die. She had no idea how the Edur had found it, or even come to understand its nature. They had bound it and then fed it blood until its strength returned. She thought to herself that she must find a way to kill it. She could sense its approach beneath the Edur ships. Along the harbor below, soldiers were crowding the fortifications. Crews were readying their weapons. Arhathan positioned himself at the end of the pier, facing in the direction of the Edur fleet. He was trying to block the creature's attack, attempt to stall the creature long enough to allow Nekel to magically draw close enough to kill it. She wished that Dictal was here with her, as he could have crushed the Eater fleets while she and Arahathan kept the spirit busy. She didn't know how much strength either of them would have left to destroy the Eater fleet. It could easily come down to hand fighting along the harbor. She thought to herself that this was the absurdity of magic and war. They do little more than negate each other, unless one cadre outnumbers the other. She had 6 minor sorcerers under her command, mixed in with the Cold Clay Battalion. They needed to be sufficient in dealing with the Edur warlocks. The Edur ship's sails fluttered, and in front of the lead ship a dark tide surged forward. She felt a sudden fear. This thing was huge. She glanced down at Arahathan with his arms wide open. The spirit heaved up in a swelling wave, speeding up as it approached the harbor front. On the docks, soldiers were behind shields, spearheads waving in the air. Somewhere shot a fireball of pitch from a trebuchet. She watched it arch and then disappear into the wave. She heard Arahathan's roar. saw a line of water shiver, then began to boil beyond the docks, lifting skyward a wall of steam, even as the spirit's bulk lunged before a moment before it struck. The concussion sent the lighthouse beneath her, wavering. She threw her arms out to balance herself. Further down on the lighthouse, people on a metal balcony were flung into the air. A groaning was heard stem up the tower as it rocked back and forth. Steam and dark water tangled together in battle, climbing higher in front of Erethan. The sorcerer was then swallowed by shadow. The lighthouse was toppling. She faced the harbor. She held her arms out and then flung herself from the edge, vanishing within a shaft of magic, slanted downwards in threads of blue fire, like a god's spear. It pierced the flank of the spirit, creating a path of heated, emitted light into the dark water. She saw that he was failing. She saw all that made him flesh and bone peel away. She sensed in that moment that he was surprised and in disbelief, curled away in the spirit's flesh, down through layer after layer of blood, hair, pieces of bone, mangled jewelry, and mangled coins, layers of withered newborns, corpses wrapped in leather, each one's face caved in. She thought to herself, layers, and asked the mistress what they had done and continued to do. She found that she had been terribly wrong. The spirit was just a shell, held together by memories within the bone, teeth, and hair. By that memory and nothing more, Nicole saw that she was about to die. All that rose to greet her, she had no defense. She thought to herself, to Sita, to hear her, to see.
Intense.
Yeah, I want to make a quick note about the lighthouse. Remember in your section how there were patrons in the bar talking about going to see this battle from a lighthouse?
Yep.
And then later on, there's a couple of people are flung from a metal balcony. I think that these are those people in that bar.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. They didn't have a good time.
No, having a good time, having a good time. That's number 2 in the music. All right.
You're on a roll, man.
Yeah. Just keep rolling, 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 rolling.
There's the hat trick.
There, I'm done. Okay, I'm done. Okay, first thought. Ancient and terrible, eager with hunger. It knew this path. It had been here before. And this is a reference to earlier in the book, as well as kind of the little backstory that we got from Nicole about the spirit. Because in the previous section, Iron Bars and Seren were talking about the harvest ship slaughters, as well as chapter 3 from this book.
I don't remember chapter 3. If you told me what happened, I might remember.
Where the seal harvest ships were destroyed outside of Trate?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I there's no fucking way I would have been able to tell you what chapter that was.
Chapter 3.
I'm always amazed you remember this stuff.
I mean, I have slipped a little bit in this book, but so, we get this backstory about this spirit that the Edur have bound. And again, not really anything more. Clues as to what it could be, assuming some type of very large demon, but also this whole part where treasures and living sacrifices were tossed into this long giant well makes me think it's an elder god because they thrived off of blood and sacrifices, right? Maybe what this is, maybe for whatever reason, the Edur have found a way to bind Mael.
Maybe.
I don't know what that is. It just that sent those 2 sentences make me think elder god. But binding, we hear a lot about binding demons.
Yeah.
We really haven't heard anything else about binding anything other than demons. Those two kind of conflict with each other, but which one is right, I don't care. It was just a talking point.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know, man. I mean, we got to get a reveal here at some point.
I would imagine, yeah. But, at the beginning, well, I mean, I guess throughout this book, we get a lot of conversation around the sea, right? Like sailors offer it worship for safe passage, right? Like we saw some of that conversation play out. And so, again, kind of going back to if this is Mael, maybe it's like he manifests himself as a creature to keep the sailors' superstitions to offer sacrifices for his self. Like I can see it being a thing that he does, just no pun intended, a way of keeping himself afloat, so to speak. Yeah.
You intended that.
Yeah, I did.
I'm calling you out, man.
Yeah. And I'll skip this next one because the one after that's kind of related. This whole competition thing, right? So, like, if Mael is conjured himself as this giant creature thing, right? But, this competition, I'm going to go, there are other carnivores in the sea. And so, therefore, are probably taking his sacrifices, right? Like, I'm on a ship. I want safe passage. I got these sick people. Bloop. Just going to toss them over, right? Like, dead weight. They're sick. They're going to die tomorrow anyway. Like, here you go, Mal. Safe passage. If he's not immediately in the vicinity, right? Carnivores are. Yeah, exactly. So my guess is that it was not enough to sustain himself. So going back to the previous comment, there's this part about the shores are a place of worship the world over. And there's documentation of this, particularly from the First Empire, who noted this phenomenon as they encountered. I like how they use the word encountered, because they eventually conquered and destroyed, is how that sentence should have ended. It should be First Empire who made note of this phenomena amongst people they encountered and eventually conquered and slaughtered.
One thing leads to another. Conquer them, kill them. That's what happened.
The very end here, this part where Erahathan just gets disintegrated. Yeah, and she sends that down through the layer after layer of blood, hair, pieces of bone, all of the sacrifices that were given to this, right? What? Babies, yep. With each one's faces caved in.
Who's punching babies' faces in?
I don't know, man. I don't know. And just all I could think of when I was reading this was like, I can only imagine what this thing looks like. An epic fucking nightmare is what it looks like. And it goes back to the centuries of human sacrifices that we see talked about earlier in this section. And there's just so much history in here. But what it relates to, I don't know. I'm having a hard time connecting this entity to anything. But I also kind of think that that's kind of the point. I don't think that we're supposed to know what it is at this point to kind of keep the mystery alive, right?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it was a really cool section. I liked it. The 3 sorcerers that we saw in the previous chapter. Well, 2 of those are dead.
I'm not sure. I would say it's up there for one of my favorite sections. I don't know which one would be my favorite. My upcoming here could be up there too.
Yeah, like I said, we're into darker times, but I'm ready to move on if you are.
Sure. Seren staggered into the street, pushed and knocked to her knees by fleeing figures. She had woke up in a cellar surrounded by empty and broken kegs. She had been robbed and most of her armor stripped away, weapons too, and the ache between her legs told her that worse had happened. Overall, she was a mess. Smoke filled the sky, sounds of fighting could be heard in the distance, down at the harbor to her left and the walls on the northeast to her right. Regular people ran in the streets everywhere with no sense of direction, and across from her, 2 men were fighting to the death. She watched as one pinned the other to the ground and smashed his head into the ground. Once the man with the smashed head was spasming, the other ran away. Doors were being kicked in, and women scrambled as their hiding places were discovered, and there were no Edur in sight. To her right were 3 men. One carried a blood-stained club, another a sickle, while a third drug a dead or unconscious child by the foot. They saw Seren and said they were coming to get her, and asked her if she woke up wanting more. Another said the city had fallen, but they had a way out and they were taking her with them. They decided to keep her for themselves and that they would keep her safe. She recoiled to the wall. A new voice told the men to hold. Seren thought she recognized him. Maybe she didn't, but she had never seen armor like he was wearing before. but the man said it was the foreign bastard and told him to find his own. The man with the child raised it up as if to use the weapon and told the foreigner not to come closer. Seren could only hope the child was actually dead, hopefully dead all along. They asked the man if he knew him, if they knew them. He said he had heard all about them, so that gave him the advantage. They asked how, and he told them because they hadn't heard anything about him. The three men swung their weapons at him. The man with the club was on the ground. He had caught the little girl and then used his other hand to reach over and use his fingertips to push into the man's chin. It didn't make sense to Seren. The man with the sickle had it sticking out from his chest and toppled over. The stranger stepped back, holding the girl under his arm, and in his other hand was part of the jaw where horrible sounds from the man to her right. He set the child down and told the man that he didn't like what he had done, so he was going to make him hurt. A lot. The man tried to run, but somehow he lost his feet, but Seren wasn't sure how. He punched him about neck level on either side, and Seren heard things snap. Blood pooled, and then he reached down between the man's legs. Seren said to stop. The man looked at her with raised eyebrows and asked if she was sure. She told Iron Bars to kill him clean. Seren said yes, and Iron Bars donkey punched him and killed him. He asked if she was all right and said it was his fault he was late. He had to sleep and thought she was safe for a bit. He was wrong, and he was sorry. Seren asked about the girl. Iron Bars thought that she had been run down by horses some time back. She asked what was happening, and Iron Bars said Trate was falling. The Edur fleet held off until Nikal Bara and Arahathan were finished, then closed in. Defenses formed by the shadow wraiths. Then the warriors landed, and it was bad. About that time, an army came down inland and swept the undermanned fortification only minutes ago. They just took out the north gate and are taking their time killing every soldier they can find. No quarter given. So far, they haven't touched anyone who isn't a soldier, but that isn't a guarantee. He helped her to her feet, and she flinched at his hands, those weapons stained with murder. If he noticed, he didn't react. He said his blade was waiting. Corlo had managed to find a warren in this place somehow, for the first time in the 2 years they had been stuck here. Whatever it was, the Edur brought. That was why, according to Corlo. She realized they were now walking, the sound of slaughter all around them. Iron Bars cocked his head and said they'd been cut off. Definitely a dark section here. So, I mean, I don't know how to take this passage. You know, Seren, she wakes up here, right? Disheveled. She'd been robbed, her armor's gone, weapons gone, and then says that she's got this ache between her legs that told her worse had happened. So, like, I can only imagine that means she got raped. But it's weird because she plays it off really casually, which caught me off guard. And so I hope this isn't something that has happened before with her reaction to it. Maybe it's just shock, like in the moment, like, yeah, that sucks. I've got bigger problems right now I got to deal with. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, you're right. I think it's shock. And things progress quite quickly.
Yeah.
Here, right? Like, she doesn't really get time to think and process, like, whoa, what just happened, right? But it's stupid that the very first line of your previous section predicts everything that happened. Not predicts everything that happened. You made a call out to it, right? Blind drunk.
Oh.
That was a description that Seren wanted to explore. With all the murky intent of a mind poisoned into stupidity, right? Not that what happened to her is her fault, but the fact that she was drinking to the point of stupidity didn't help, right? Like, she probably wasn't able to defend herself, you know, alcohol and the effects on the mind, right?
Right. Yeah, good addition there, man, for sure. My next thought here is Seren's watching these two dudes just beat each other to death, right? And this whole scene is just so chaotic. Like you had said, it progresses so fast that I didn't really catch this the first time around, that this one dude is smashing this other dude's head into the ground, and then he just, you know, the guy's dying and he just walks away. Just, I think, you know, once I slowed down, I caught that. I was like, oh, definitely dark.
Yeah.
And then we get this, these three charming gentlemen, right? Just upstanding citizens, and one of them, he's got this dead or unconscious child by the foot, and I was just like, man, where's Gruntle when we need him? He wouldn't put up with that.
Yeah, he would have stopped that right. He would have stopped that shit right then and there.
And Iron Bars does pretty quick here too, but
Mm-hmm.
and then so they see Seren, and then they ask her if she woke up wanting more. So I guess we know who the perpetrators were to Saren's ache, right?
Yes. Yes. Which I'm taking are probably the men from the bar.
Yeah, I guess they could be. I don't know. I mean, you think the one dude's like just got a dead or unconscious child he's lugging around with at the bar?
No, I think that it's probably just a series of timing, right? Like at the end of your previous section, she overhears antagonizers trying to start shit with a betrayer, right? Or
Yeah.
so
I guess
yeah.
we don't know how much time has elapsed here. She passed out for some amount of time, it sounds like. So,
Mm-hmm. Right.
yeah.
So I would imagine that, while the Edur are coming in, they're kind of creating their own chaos. And nobody cares because the Edur are. So they
There's
just
bigger
kind of go
problems.
on this stupid spree, right? Just
Yeah.
starting shit to start shit.
And then Iron Bar's just he does what needs to be done. And he's brutal and effective to say the least here. But they all three attack him, and the guy with the club, he catches the club in one hand. The other guy with the kid swings the kid, and he gets the kid in the other hand, and then like drops the club and uses his other hand to rip the dude's jaw out. Meanwhile,
Mm-hmm.
the guy with the sword is somehow stabbed. And then, this guy is making horrible sounds without half of his mouth and his tongue probably flapping all over. And he's just like, yeah, you're a piece of shit. I don't like what you did, so I'm going to make you hurt a lot. As if having your jaw ripped off probably doesn't already hurts a lot, I imagine. He's like, this is only going to get worse. And then for some reason, Saren's just like, don't do this, just kill him. Like,
right.
I don't know why she's giving these guys mercy, but I guess it's good for her for being able to do that.
I think it's just part of her character. I think this is what makes her fun character to read about. I don't know how else to say it. Yeah.
Fair, man. She's a good character. And then so Iron Bars helps Saren get up, and she flinches at his hands and thinks those weapons stained with murder. And I just really love that line. But I also think that the killing is totally justified.
All right.
I don't 100% justified. Like I wouldn't call it murder, I guess.
I would agree with you, but I also want you to pay attention to that as we go into this next section. Like hold on to that thought, right? So multi-part, multifaceted.
Yeah. Sure. We might have to bring it back up here just to keep my mind on track, but
well, it's a short section, kind of like Roulad's romping sessions.
Well, I'm ready. I'm ready for it. Go ahead.
Okay, but yeah, keep that last thought in mind because we're not done with your section. We're just gonna kind of read this next one and see how we feel after that one. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Dragged into the slaughter, witness to the killings of hapless, disorganized soldiers, he wondered if the moneylenders were next. Udanas was left to walk in the wake of his emperor and 12 Edur warriors as they waded through flesh or cutting lives down as they made a path. Roulad was displaying skill that did not belong to him, and he was gibbering. The sound was maniacal, and every so often a scream of terror and fear would drown out his gibbering. Roulad was not a triumphant warrior. He was a killer, killing. Near Roulad, an Edur warrior fell at the hand of a Lethri soldier. The emperor shrieked and swiftly dealt justice. He laughed and that took him by surprise. His fellow Edur stared at their savage ruler. Down the street, carving through a rearguard of some sort, Udanas stumbled over writhing and weeping corpses. corpses, blind with dying, men calling for their mothers, and to these the slave reached down and touched soldiers and fingers to slick foreheads. He would tell them, "I'm here, my boy. It's all right. You can go now." The apologetic priest, chains snapped forward step by step, whispering hollow blessings, soft lies, forgiving even as he prayed for someone, something, to forgive him in turn. But no one touched him, no fingertips brushed his brow. For the burned Eater village, it was retribution. Where were the moneylenders? This was, after all, their war. Another 100 paces, and 3 more Edur were cut down. Rulad and 8 brethren continued on. Udanas wondered where the rest of the army was. Likely somewhere else. He had a clever revelation here. If one could always choose the right question, then every answer could be obvious. Another Edur screamed and fell over. Rulad killed 2 more soldiers, and suddenly no one was in their path. They stopped and looked around. Stuck in the middle of an intersection, from their right, a sudden arrival. 2 Edur were mortally wounded. The attacker, with his left hand, punched a third Edur's head around. Clash of blades, more blood, another Edur down. Then the attacker was through and wheeling around. Rulad jumped to meet him. Rulad's molted sword and the attacker's plain sword collided, and somehow were bound together. The attacker's free hand struck between the blades, connecting with Rulad's forehead and snapping the Emperor's neck. The molted blade was sliding down, and he was already stepping past, his sword already through another Edur's chest. Another heartbeat, and the last 2 Edur warriors were down. The stranger looked about, saw Udanas, nodded, then waved to an alley mouth from which a woman emerged. It took Udanas a second to recognize the woman as Seren Paddock. She looked badly beaten. Udanas thought to himself that there would be no more of that, not as long as this man lived. Seren took no notice of Udanas, nor the dead Edur. The stranger grasped her hand. The slave watched them head off down the street and then turned a corner. Somewhere behind him were the shouts of Edur warriors, the sound of running feet. He found himself standing beside Rulad's body, staring down at it. He observed the bizarre angle of the head on the twisted neck, the hands tight around the sword. He was waiting for the mouth to open with mad laughter.
Or chaos.
Yes. Keeping in mind the end of your section, how do you feel at the end of this section?
I mean, this is a battle. I mean,
Does it feel heroic?
On whose part?
Rulad's.
Not particularly.
This is what I want you. This is what kind of blew my mind, right? Like the fact that these sections are right next to each other. I almost kind of wonder how it would have turned out if either one of us had both right after the other. But just the stark contrast, right? Like in this section, we get Rulad was not a triumphant warrior; he was a killer killing, right? Erickson is already making Rulad the bad guy. But in the previous section, what is Ironbars doing?
He's killing people.
Right. Those weapons were stained with murder. Murder, killing, I would say that they're probably on the same plane, no? But yet, at one section, you feel heroic, justification. But in this next one, you don't. But even though they're seeking retribution for destroyed Eater villages. So I think that it's really funny that, again, these contrasts exist, and yet neither one is right or wrong. We have this intrinsic feeling of good and bad, which isn't something that we're supposed to feeling, right? Like throughout this whole series, and it was a struggle for me at first to let go of this concept of like there's a good guy and a bad guy, right? Everybody in this is morally gray. But in here, you kind of feel that elevated a little bit more than you're used to. And I think that's why I'm calling it out.
I like that. I mean, we've said, I like Rulad, but I've never felt like it was because I thought he was a hero or anything. He's just an interesting character to me. Sure. But yeah, I mean, he's killing in a battle here, and you're right. It's not heroic, whereas Ironbar's doing it. He's defending Seren, right? Which does feel like a heroic thing. And this is just not that.
Yeah.
Interesting thought for sure.
But like, why do these seem so contrasted in the way that you feel at the end of them? But they're essentially doing the same thing. So my first actual thought that I wanted to comment on, this part that like Rulad was displaying skill that did not belong to him. It just straight up pisses me off. I don't know why, but maybe it goes back to the fact that like he didn't earn it. He didn't earn the skill, but yet he's displaying it.
I guess I didn't really feel that way, but I see where you're coming from.
You have a little bit more of an affinity for him than I do, but second thought, and again, the sound was maniacal, and we're talking about, Rulad's gibbering. To mix in the fact that you got individual souls, their one last attempt at asserting their pain and anguish, their recognition of their demise was louder. And I just thought that was so brutal. So brutal, right? Like, this is your one last attempt in this world to express your pain and anguish in a death cry, right? And
yeah,
I don't know, it's just fucked up.
I never thought about it that way either, but it is brutal. Yeah, that's absolutely brutal.
It's brutal, for sure. This next thought is kind of just the compassion we see from Udanas in this section. Touching shoulders and putting fingers to foreheads and saying, like, I'm here, my boy, like pretending to be these boys' mother, and just offering a final word of comfort. And I think that I have so much more respect for Udanas in this moment, and it makes me like him more as a character. And I hope his appearance does not end in this book. Like, I hope we get to see more of him throughout the series.
I guess we'll see. I have no idea. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't.
I think it's just, this whole apologetic priest, I'm assuming this is meant to tie Udanas to the apologetic priest. I don't know why I struggled with that line at first, but, doling out mercy, whispering soft lies to ease anxiety. It's just, I didn't understand what it was supposed to be. Like, for whatever reason, I thought that alongside Udanas, there was some type of apologetic priest blessing the deaths or something. I don't know. It was a weird sentence structure, and I didn't understand. And then, of course, my last comment is on the quickness of Rulad's death itself. Was very much akin to how he makes love. Over before you know it.
Takes all sorts, man.
Yeah, I don't know. How did you feel about that quick death, right? Like, I mean, when I read that, I'm like, ooh, I wonder how Derek's going to feel about that.
Didn't feel much. It was like, I didn't really feel that surprised.
Why didn't you feel surprised?
Because, I mean, we know he's coming back. I mean, what did they call him? Like, something about, like, the Lord of 1,000 Deaths or something like that. I can't remember what the term was, so, like, and maybe it was even in, it might have been in my section upcoming here, that Withel tells, or maybe it's the crippled god, one of them tells him, like, next time it's going to be harder to kill you.
Yep.
And the time after that it'll be harder and so forth. So it's just kind of like, it's just like a guy caught in a time loop. It's just that lie from the crippled god, like, I will give you what you want, which I guess he kind of has, but it's not in the way that he thinks it's going to be. You know? So
I'm definitely looking forward to some of your thoughts as we progress here.
All right.
So, yeah.
Ready to move on?
I sure am.
All right. I got a shorty here. Iron Bars said it was the damn weirdest armor he has ever seen. Seren didn't know what he was talking about. Iron Bar said he was good with that sword, fast. In another 5 years, he might have had enough experience to be deadly, enough to cause others trouble. But that armor was a fortune, and it was right there for the taking, but they didn't have the time. Seren still didn't understand. Iron Bar said the Tiste Edur. Seren was confused, and he said to never mind and pointed out his friends. 6 figures at the dead end of an alley, all in crimson trench coats. 2 women, 4 men. One looked to be holding a diadem in his hand, stepped forward, and spoke in a language Seren wasn't familiar with. Iron Bars replied in an impatient growl. The air started shimmering. Iron Bars said Corlo was opening a warren. They were going through, and if they were lucky, they wouldn't find anything on the way. But they didn't know how far they would go. Hopefully it was far enough. Saren asked where they were going. Iron Bars said Lotheris. They had a ship waiting there. She thought to what Iron Bars had said. Strange armor, a fortune. She asked if he was dead. Iron Bars asked who she meant, and asked who she was talking about. She said the Tiste Edur. Was he dead? Did he kill him? Iron Bars said he had no choice. He was slowing them down, and more were coming. All Saren could think was, oh no. Didn't really have any thoughts on that section. Pretty straightforward here.
How come you didn't put your ship comment in here?
Because I didn't come up with that until I was driving home from work today, listening to our episode.
Okay.
So like it was very recent.
Isn't it crazy how it does that?
Yeah, that's why I like to listen to our stuff.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
Pick up little tidbits from before. Like you said, it's kind of like that reread and a half, or 0.2, whatever,
Yeah. Seren is with the Crimson Guard.
Yeah. And I guess maybe they're going to meet our other friends here soon.
Yeah, that would be cool. So maybe that we'll have to use that as our prediction at the end of the episode here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that works.
All right. Vomit spilled onto the sand. Whittle thought that at least the screaming had stopped. He waited seating on some grass just above the beach, while Ralad tossed his cookies. Off to one side, two of the Nox, Rind and Puel, were fighting over a piece of driftwood. Their games of destruction had become obsessive of late. He wondered if the two Nox were mimicking something of his own truth, or maybe the isolation was simply driving the Nox insane. Insanity was a different kind of truth. Whittle despised religion. No gods were in his path. Ascendants were worse than rabid beasts. It was already too much that the mortals could inflict so much evil. He wanted nothing to do with their more powerful, immortal counterparts. That included this broken god in his squalid tent. To him, the crippled god represented suffering, consumed to spread its own misery out into the world. All the worlds. Misery and false escape. Pain and mindless surrender. Made all this manifest as one piece. On this small island in the middle of an empty sea, Whittle was lost. Within himself, he was losing the ability to recognize any of his faces. Thought and self were reduced, wandering inside a stranger's memories, while the world beyond unraveled. Nest building, destruction, fanged mouth agape in silent laughter. 3 gestures repeating the same performance again and again. What did it mean? What obvious lesson was being shown to him? And that he was too blind, too stupid to figure out. Ralad was done throwing up. He looked up and said no more. Whittle looked away, focused on the strand, and then said that there were never any sunrises or sunsets here. Ralad screamed that Whittle didn't know what it was like. As the scream trailed away, Whittle said that the nests are getting more elaborate. And then Mape wrecks it. He asked himself what he is to make of that. Ralad said that he can keep his damn sword and he wasn't going to go over there. Whittle said that he had nothing to do. Ralad, in an accusatory tone, said that Whittle had made the sword. Whittle responded that he had made more swords than he could count. Whittle explains that they were broken blades, those black shards. He thought there were 2 of them, black and brittle, just pieces. He wondered where the crippled god found those pieces. Ralad said that everything breaks. Whittle agreed that everything can break. Ralad tries to convince Whittle to break the sword. Whittle said that he could not. The Edur reasserted that everything breaks. While Whittle responded to say that yes, that included people. Ralad said that wasn't good enough. Whittle shrugged it off and explained that he doesn't remember much of anything and he believes that the crippled god has stolen his mind. All he needs to do is worship the crippled god, and everything will come clear. He then asked Ralad if it was clear to him. Ralad said that the evil of the sword was Whittle's making. The Mekros said yes, and he did accept the crippled god's offer, but alas, he was lied to. the crippled god said that after he had made the sword, then he would be able to go free. He tells Rulad that this god lies. The Edur Emperor said that he had a power, a wife, and his fellow Edur followed him loyally. Withel simply said that fear breeds loyalty and that they'd follow. They're waiting too, right now. Rulad clawed at his face, upset about the man who had killed him, and 7 of his brothers, a man who wasn't even Lethri. He was so fast. It seemed he was barely moving, yet my kin were dying. Withel said that next time Rulad would be harder to kill, and the time after that. Withel asked if he understood that. It's the essence of the mangled god who's waiting for him. Rulad asked who was this god. Withel said that this god was a miserable little shit, who now has the Edur's emperor's soul in his hands. Rulad said that that Father Shadow had abandoned him. Withel said no, Father Shadow was dead, or he would have come marching ashore to save Rulad and the Edur's soul from the crippled god's grasp. He didn't finish his sentence. That, he realized, was the blood-soaked truth, the reason why he hated religion and the gods. Rulad said that he would kill the crippled god with the sword. Withel called him a fool and said that there was nothing on this island that the crippled god couldn't hear, much less see. Withel thought that, except maybe his own mind, even if the crippled god knew, how could he stop him? He couldn't know, because if he did, Withel would be dead. Rulad got to his feet and said that he was ready. The Mekros looked at the 2 Nox and saw that they both looked down at the destroyed piece of driftwood. He told the Edur youth all right, and they should get going.
Nice job, dude.
You had made a comment, I don't remember which chapter, but a few chapters ago, the Nox were doing something, they were destroying this nest, and you had equated that to something. I don't remember what. Do you remember what?
I think I felt like each one of the Nox represented like somebody, and I don't remember the 3 who I thought.
Okay.
But something to that effect.
So I'm kind of bouncing off that theory a little bit. So, with this thought that these 2 Nox mimicking something of his own truths, right? In the previous chapter with Udanoth and Featherwitch and the meeting of his son, right, Mianandor, we kind of talked about how there's a possibility that Mianandor was intervening in the crippled god's play, right, or whatever the crippled god was doing. So do you think that the Nox are a representation of the crippled god and Mianandor? Like, Pule keeps making this nest, which is a crippled god, and then Mape, who is female, keeps coming in and destroying it, and then he builds it back better. But that could also be a representation of Rulad getting more skilled and harder to kill every time he's brought back to life. And maybe the nest, the destroyed nest, is a reference to the destroyed Mekros city.
Could be. Yeah, I wish I remembered what my thought was on that. I don't even remember what chapter that was, so I wouldn't even know where to go back to like try to listen again, you know.
It was the first time Rulad saw the crippled god.
I feel like it was pretty early in the book when I was thinking about this. But maybe, I mean, you may be right too. I'm not sure.
There's this thought that Withel has about wandering inside a stranger's memories while the world beyond unraveled. So I'm assuming that what Withel is referring to is this realm that the crippled god is occupying right now. But it's all taking place inside of someone's memories. My thought is could this be the thing we read about in the very first section of the first chapter, where that like giant laid down to sea and then the waters rose and he was drowned?
Interesting. Yeah.
Or could this be Cruel or another elder god potentially?
Maybe. Sorry, I don't have a good answer for you.
I mean, these are wild speculations. So it's just I'm trying to get an understanding of the crippled god's environment here.
Yeah, I don't really know what it is. It's just this place. But I will say it makes me think of the Nascent a little bit, just kind of empty.
But yet there's a whole ass city in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still waiting for when that comes in, or like when it clicks.
Right. We'll see what happens.
So it's, and again, we'll go back to kind of what you were on with something, or on to something with the knocks here. The nest building, the destruction. One of them is clearly laughing at what they're witnessing. 3 gestures repeating the same performance again and again. What did it mean? And I believe that he's referring to the knocks as the gestures, replaying the same thing over and over again. And this seems in line with the dying and coming back to life thing.
Oh, cool.
Maybe what Withel can't understand is how the cycle could be broken. Maybe there's something in how the knocks are repeating the nest building and the destruction of that nest that would deliver a different outcome. A way to end the game, maybe.
Interesting. I think we should probably keep that in mind as we continue through here.
Yeah, there's definitely something there.
That's a good take, dude. Nice
Could
job.
be for a variety of reasons. Hey, man, you inspired me. So
teamwork. That's fucking teamwork. Look at you got me singing now. That's 4 songs.
That's fucking teamwork. So yeah, it could go either way. I kind of talked about Mape a little bit. She's the only female knocked, and she's the one that's destroying the nest. And Puel is the youngest of the knocks. He's like a male knocked, and he's the youngest. And Rind is the older male. I'm assuming the one doing all the laughing. Mape is supposed to represent Meanandor, or sorry, I'm saying that wrong. Apparently, Meandor.
I think you're spelling it wrong. I think it's Menandor.
Maybe Menandor. I guess we'll find out when the episode is replayed or listened to by my own Genesis. Please, if there's a way for you to hear what I'm supposed to say, let me know.
I think it's got to be Menandor because it's Menandore is the spelling.
Menandor.
I'm not sure how long you've been doing
Meanandor.
That's all right. We probably
There's
say all
no
sorts
wrong way to say a fantasy character's name.
Unless you just spell it wrong and then pronounce it wrong, apparently.
Or it's like an autocorrect thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be it, yeah. Or we're just taking our best freaking guess here at some of these names.
Maybe. But, Mape being female and potentially symbolism for Meandor, the nest that she's destroying gets more and more elaborate to eventually withstand that destruction. So maybe there's symbolism there too. Every time Meandor intervenes, the better the crippled god gets at thwarting it, which is why my theory about Withel being Udanos's child has any type of legitimacy, then maybe that is the reason he ends up with the crippled god and not Meandor, right? Because he's here, he's helping, he made the sword, right? Clearly, the intervention didn't work on Meandor's behalf. Right?
It's a lot of thoughts.
I know. And like I said, you inspired me to have a couple different theories surrounding these knocks.
Well, cool.
All right, here's another trip back to the prologue. I won't make you read anything. Withel's talking about these shards of blades, right? He thought that there were 2 of them, black and brittle. They were just pieces. But he wonders where the crippled god had found those pieces. This caught my attention because I think it confirms a couple of things for me. I had to go back to the prologue to find out, but when Silchus Ruin sembles back into his humanoid form and meets Scabandari Bloodeye to oversee the victory over the Kachain Chamal, remember that part in the prologue?
Yeah.
It was said that his 2 scabbards were empty. So why is this important? Well, because I'm guessing the crippled god found the pieces of Silchus's weapons, and then it was used in the foraging of the sword. So the sword that Rulad is using is somehow connected to Silchus Ruin's powers and abilities, I guess. Secondly, I believe that this confirms for us that it is Silchus Ruin that is in the barrow and trying to get out. the one Bryce brought the two swords to. We'll see what happens.
Interesting. We will see.
I think you had a thought here.
I did, and I think I was kind of I must have just been skimming your summary. But, Rulad said that Father Shadow had abandoned them. Withal said no, Father Shadow was dead, or he would have come marching ashore. And so do you think that's just some sort of hint as to what is in the water under the ships?
You think it's Father Shadow?
I don't know.
No.
Maybe.
I think he's dead. Nobody's ever really dead in this universe, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I don't know. It caught my attention, like you said here a moment ago. It grabbed yours, and it just like popped into my head. I'm like, is it one of those things that's just kind of hidden in plain sight? I don't know.
That would be really cool. Withel kind of has this thought based on, what you just spoke about. That if Father Shadow hadn't abandoned them, he would have come marching ashore, saving them, right? And he never really kind of like finishes what his thought was. And he realized that this was kind of the truth, the reason why he hated religion and gods. Because the Ascendants, the gods, they're incredibly unreliable and incredibly selfish, right? So
for the most part, I think with what we've seen, yeah.
It makes sense to me, but it's just kind of funny how he kind of has this realization, epiphany of sorts. Like, hey, this is kind of the actual reason why I don't do such and such, blah, blah, blah. This last thing, Rulad got to his feet and said that he was ready. I will say that he really surprised me here, and also in the next section where we kind of have an interaction with him and the crippled god. So this kind of ties in both of those kind of interactions because it's one scene split up by something in the middle here. I will say, because of that surprise, and it seemed to me that he was enjoying his lap of luxury. It seems he's just ready to give up, but couldn't have that thought occurred to him when it mattered for the sake of his fellow Edur, right? It wasn't until he was taken out of the world and back in and then back out that he seems to have any type of remorse. I get it though, right? He made a deal with the devil and now he's stuck. But you'd think he'd use his powers to thwart the crippled god after this, force the crippled god to find someone else. Maybe that does happen. Maybe Rulad will finally listen to Troll's advice. I don't know. I don't think so, but I can only hope.
Well, I think that kind of comes up later. Yeah. I don't know. He's stuck. He's shit in the bed, and now he's got to sleep in it.
Right. But here's my question is like, we know how this ends for Troll because it's the beginning of the fourth book. It's a prologue in the fourth book. While I have hope that maybe Rulad has a change of heart based on this dying a second time, that things will change because he's ready to give up. He's ready to kill the crippled god with the sword, right? He's ready to be done with it. I think it's a little too late. I don't know why his friends and his family, especially Troll, were like questioning the crippled god's intent. And Rulad just fucking ignored it. I know it's not going to go the way I hope it's going to go, which is disappointing. And that's me setting myself up for failure. Yeah.
Well, he had big eyes, right? Like he saw what he wanted and he was trying to get it.
I mean, do you feel the same? I mean, I feel like you're kind of the Rulad expert. You seem to have a different perspective than most. So what is your take on the way that he's reacting to the circumstance right now?
I think I took it very differently than you. I mean, because he said he's ready, as he got to his feet. And I was just like, it seems kind of like he's just like, all right, well, I got to keep doing this for now until I figure something out. And I guess kind of like you said, he doesn't have to be happy about it or he doesn't have to like it, but it's just kind of the situation he's in right now. So he's just going to have to deal with it for the time being.
But why would you continue to be a dick when you get back? Why wouldn't you use your powers to get back at the crippled god?
Maybe that's where some of it, the crippled god speaking through him, to an extent. And sometimes your personality is just your personality. It's not, I don't know, maybe he just doesn't really realize he's as big of an asshole as he is.
Maybe. I don't know.
And nobody's going to tell him, hey, you're an asshole.
Oh,
because he's the
I'm gonna go into
emperor.
these books. I'm gonna write myself in and tell him he's an asshole.
Well, you're gonna die. That's what I can tell you.
Nope,
Yep.
I'm not
Head
gonna die.
head chopped off, rolling down the hill.
Nope,
Yep.
nope. I have my own Warren of creativity.
Okay, man. I
That's
can't
right.
argue. I can't argue with that, I guess.
We can move on.
All right. She was behind the black glass, within a tunnel of translucent obsidian, and there were no ghosts. Carlo said Corral Ghislaine, and that it was unexpected. It was a rotten conquest, or that the Edur didn't even know what they were using. The air smelled like death. The black stone beneath their feet was greasy and uncertain. Corlo said it was a rat's maze. Iron Bars said to take them south. Corlo didn't know which way that was in the ward. Corlo asked Seren if she had any idea. She wasn't paying attention, and Corlo said something to Iron Bars in the language Seren couldn't understand. Iron Bars asked Seren if this was the hold of darkness. She said no such thing existed. He said he was just trying to say it in a way that made sense to her. But Corlo said it shouldn't. He rubbed the back of his neck and said they were Tiste Edur, correct? Not Andy? The hold of darkness is Andy. The Edur were from the hold of shadow. So it was natural for them to expect this Warren to be Corrald Emerlon, but it isn't. It's Corrald Ghislaine. Only it's been overrun with Tiste Andy's spirits. Saren said she had seen those spirits, and they are not here. Corlo said they were. He was just keeping them away. For now, anyways. But it was getting harder to do, and they were lost. Saren said the spirits were not Edur. Corlo agreed. Saren asked what their relationship was. Were they allies? Corlo said the spirits were bound, compelled to fight alongside the Edur. Are they Andy spirits? This was starting to make sense. What else would they be? Not Edur spirits, since no binding magic would be needed. Iron Bars asked what they were suggesting. Saren asked if the spirits were trying to attack them. Corlo wasn't sure. Saren said to let one through. Maybe they could talk to it. Maybe they could get help. Corlo wondered why it would want to help. Saren said maybe they could make a deal. Iron Bar said to let one through. Corlo said to be ready to fight in case it didn't want to talk. Within a moment, a figure emerged. It was a woman, tall as an Edur, with midnight skin. She wore a leather harness and leggings, and on her shoulder was the fur of some white-furred beast. She was unarmed. She spoke, and Saren heard something similar to the Edur language. Saren tried using the Edur language and said hello, that they didn't mean to stay long, and apologized for intruding into her world. The woman's expression didn't change and said the betrayers never do. Saren said she may speak their language, but they were not allies. Maybe they had that in common. The woman said she was one of the first to die in the war, and so not at the hands of an Edur. They cannot take her, force her to fight for them. So her and others like her were beyond their grasp. Saren said her spirit was still trapped here. The spirit wanted to know what she wanted. Saren relayed Corlo's message that they needed to pass beyond the influence of the Edur and return to their world. The figure said they were mortal and could pass through where she could not. Saren asked if she could guide them. The figure asked what her reward would be. The figure thought about it, then declined, saying her service was not worth their payment. It was not far to the exit. They would find it eventually. Ironbar said to ask what she would have them do. She said the Kachain Shamal counterattack drove a number of them to the shoreline. She was not a good fighter and died at the sea's edge. Her corpse rolled out into the tide and was buried in the mud. She asked that the ring she was holding be returned to her corpse, to what little of her remains, so that she may find oblivion. Saren asked how this would work. The figure said she would join with the substance of the ring. They wouldn't see her any longer. Then toss it into the sea. Saren said that didn't seem too hard. The figure said maybe it wasn't, but the inequity lies in the exchange of values. Saren said they saw it as an even exchange. The figure asked how she would know they wouldn't betray her. Iron Bar said to tell her that he is an avowed of the Crimson Guard. If she wants to know what that means, she can lay her hand on his chest, but he would honor their pact. Saren said she hadn't told them what the figure wants yet. Iron Bars asked and was surprised by what she sought. Seren said it would end her existence. Iron Bars said to tell her to seek the cast of his soul. The shadow put her hand on Iron Bar's chest, and she flinched back, asking why. How could he? And she trailed off. Seren said she was appalled. Iron Bar said that didn't matter. Did she accept? The figure told Seren she could not do otherwise, but had forgotten what sorrow felt like. Seren told Iron Bars that whatever avowed meant, she was overwhelmed with pity. Iron Bars said they all make mistakes. The figure said she would lead them, and her name was Sandalath Drukorlat. Seren thanked her and said it grieved her to know that their gift to her was oblivion. She shrugged and said those that she loved and had loved her believe she is gone in truth, so there is no need for grief. Seren thought if there was no need for grief, then where did her pity come from? Iron Bars told everybody to get ready. They were leaving. This might be my favorite section. I'm not sure. I mean,
you like this one?
I do.
Okay.
Just, I don't know. It's interesting. I like the interaction with the Wraith, getting a little more information on Iron Bars here and that, but maybe you can kind of clear up some of this because I was a little confused on things. They say things are starting to make sense. What else would they be? Not Edur spirits, since no binding magic was needed. And Iron Bars asked what they were suggesting. And I'm kind of in the same boat. Like the Edur, the Andy, like, I don't know. I'm a little confused here as to what they're confused about.
I think that they were confused as to like why all of a sudden there's a Warren. I mean, they've been in this area for 2 years. And so it makes sense now because the Andi spirits are bound to the Edur. So basically, the way I see it is the Tiste Edur are not using their own power, if that makes any sense. They have enslaved the Andi and are usurping their power.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. That makes some sense then. All right. And then Seren's playing translator here, right? And Iron Bars, he tells her, he's an avowed. She wants to know what that means. She can put her hand on his chest, but he would, he'll be honorable, right? And then Iron Bars tells her to seek the cast of his soul. And I don't know if that just means to like you can see the character of the person I am, or if it's just another way to say that. But I'm definitely interested in learning more about Iron Bars.
Does his name not make you? I mean, it does for me, but maybe it doesn't for you. But his name to me reminds me of another 3 characters.
Who's that?
Gessler, Stormy, Truth. They all have this like metallic cast, this bronze hue to their skin now, right? I'm wondering if maybe this avowed is some type of like ascendant as well as whatever Stormy, Gessler, and Truth are.
I mean, he's obviously powerful.
The Crippled God makes a comment about this at the end of the chapter. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Not offhand right now. No.
So I guess we could talk about it when it gets there. But yeah, we don't really know much about the Crimson Guard. We really haven't had any interaction with them since Gardens of the Moon.
And even there wasn't much.
No. They had just gotten back from a sail. So I'm wondering, I mean, there's a whole ass book called A Sail. So
right.
I wonder if that's going to be kind of what that surrounds, right?
Well, and then wasn't there was it at the end of Memories of Ice or House of Chains? Didn't we find out there was like a big Talan Imus war going on in A Sail? Or was it somewhere else?
I don't know if they said A Sail, but
because wherever it was, like the humans were kicking the shit out of them.
Right, yeah.
And maybe it was the Crimson Guard.
Maybe it is the Crimson Guard. I'm definitely interested to see more of the lore around the Crimson Guard. So yeah, I think the introduction of them in this book is just like, oh, cool. I totally forgot about those guys. I want to know more.
Yeah. My last thought here is just the name of the Wraith here, Sandalath Drukorlat. And I wonder this must be an ancestor for Korlat.
This also comes up at the end.
Does it? I don't remember that at all then.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think there's a connection. I think you found the first piece. And we can come back to that.
Sure.
Or we talk about it now. It doesn't matter to me.
Maybe it'll ring a bell when we get to it then.
All right. Sounds great.
That's all I got though.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just keep this thing rolling.
Yeah.
All right. Mape was laying on a knoll as if she was dead, her head picked up as Withel and Roulade came into view. Some time ago, she had stolen a hammer from the forge and was using it for the destruction of Pule's nests. Of the three knocks, Mape made Withel the most nervous, as the creature could likely tear his limbs off. He wondered if the crippled god had bound them, as it was simply that kept the knocks from ripping Withel's throat out. Roulade growled and asked what would stop him if he were to pierce the crippled god's scrawny chest with his sword. Withel said not to ask that question of him, as the crippled god can only answer that, but he doubts it would be that easy. The crippled god is a slippery bastard, and there in his tent his power is likely absolute. Roulade sneered and commented that it was the vastness of his realm. Withel agreed, but the words seemed to linger in interest. They reached the ragged tent and stepped inside. Tendrils of smoke rose in front of the crippled god's huddled form. He coughed and then acknowledged Roulade's anger, saying that it was unreasonable given the effectiveness of the sword. Roulade said he didn't want to go back, to leave him here and to find someone else. The crippled god said that unwitting servants to his cause appeared from unexpected sources. He asked them to imagine an avowed of the Crimson Guard. He told Roulade to be glad that it wasn't Cowell or Skinner, as they for sure would have taken notice. That would not have been a good thing, because they're not ready for that yet. Roulade said he wasn't going back, and that he wants nothing more of this power. The crippled god was amused. He told the young Edur that he does want that power. Take, for example, all that has been reaped. Roulade said that the skill wasn't his, and all around him could tell. Roulade has earned nothing. The crippled god asked what value there was in the pride Roulade sought. He stated that mortals baffled him, as it wasn't up to him to guide Roulade in the rule of his empire. That task is for Roulade alone. He asked the young Edur if he has not gotten stronger. He adds, muscles more prominent than his brother Fear. He tells Roulade to quit his bitchin'. The young Edur said that the crippled god was using him. The crippled god laughed. He asked if Scabandari Blood-Eye had not. He tells Roulade that he knows the tale, all of it. He calls Blood-Eye a murderer, knife wielder, and a betrayer. Roulade cuts him off, saying that the crippled god was lying. That didn't stop the crippled god, for he continued the story. Blood-Eye led the Edur into their own betrayal of the once allies Tistandi, who were slaughtered at the command of Scabandari. The Edur killed those who fought alongside them. This was the legacy of the Edur, and Hanan Mosag knew, his brother Fear knew, even his mother and the Edur women knew. Their memory was far less selective. Roulade pleaded no more. The crippled god has poisoned his honor with all he said. The crippled god said that perhaps what he offered is absolution, the opportunity to make amends. It is within Roulade. It's up to him to shape the empire as he will. The empire will cast his reflection and no one else's. He asked the Edur if he ran away from that. Then yes, he would be forced to find another, one who will prove to be less honorable. The sword clattered at Roulade's feet. He told Roulade to choose. With a scream, Roulade picked up the sword off the floor and lunged. A moment later, he was gone. Rasping laughter was heard as the crippled god told Withel that nothing surprises him anymore. Disgusted at the crippled god's actions, the Mekros turned away. The crippled god observed this and asked Withel what plagued him. Withel responded that Roulade didn't deserve that. The crippled god said that he did deserve it. In fact, they all do. Withel agrees, but then snaps back that the crippled god's tactics weren't the cleanest. The crippled god said to be careful. His gratitude for what Withel had done was wearing thin. Withel laughed and questioned the crippled god's gratitude. Wasn't he, Withel, forced to do the crippled god's bidding? He studied the hooded figure for a moment. He then tells his master that he sees his problem. Withel wasn't sure what he was missing, but now he understands. The crippled god had no realm to command, as did the other gods. He sits there alone in his tent, the extent of his realm. Broken flesh and foul, stifling air. His world and his world alone. And the irony was, he didn't even have control over his own body. The crippled god coughed and told Withel to spare him the sympathy. He explains to the Mekros that he has already given this problem considerable thought. The god has found a solution. He tells Withel to just wait and see, and when the time comes, to think back to the word he had just shared. He tells Withel to go. Withel told the god that he still didn't understand. The more pain and misery he caused invites it back, and any sympathy the crippled god would have received is swept away. The crippled god tells him to leave, to go build a nest, as Mape is waiting. Okay, couple of thoughts here. Rulad sneered and commented that the vastness of his realm, I take that with sarcasm. Withel agreed, but he seemed to linger on that. In this moment of time, it seems like the crippled god is just getting starting to implement his plan. So his realm is just limited to this tent and maybe in a less strength outwards to this lonely island in the middle of the sea, right? So I just thought that was kind of cool.
Nothing to add, sir.
And then this part about the Crimson Guard, which we talked a little bit ago, the unwitting servants to his cause appeared and from unexpected sources. And the word unwitting caught me off guard. Is the crippled god suggesting that at some point in the series they're going to end up working hand in hand with each other? The Crimson Guard and the crippled god? Is this the reason why they oppose the Malazan army?
I don't know. I guess I did not. I'm not going to say I had a different thought than you on that, but that didn't cross my mind at all. Sorry, man.
It's all good.
Some of the stuff, it's almost like a surprise to me, when you bring this stuff up.
Do you want opportunities to think about some of this stuff? I mean, I know you throw me some
no
a ride too, and I'm like, fuck, I wish I would have had more time to think about that one,
No, I did not take that as like you did. I guess that's just all I can say.
Well, what do you think? What does unwitting in this context mean, coming from the crippled god's mouth, right?
I thought they were talking about somebody else, and then he says, imagine, somebody, the Crimson Guard. I guess I just didn't think those two sentences were necessarily related that way. That's all.
I guess I don't know. But then, be glad it wasn't Cowell or Skinner. The crippled god already knows about these people.
I thought that was interesting, yes.
So he's done his research.
Or they're pretty famous, infamous.
I don't know. My last thought is, they're talking about, hey, Rulad, your empire is yours to do what you will. The empire will cast its reflection based on you and no one else. And I thought that this was funny because the Edur are shadow aspected, right? So they're the reflection of what's being cast. Not necessarily my point. Here's where I may get a little hopeful, kind of along the lines of what we talked about. I hope that Rulad uses his power for good. And I would say that so far, his reflection onto those around him has been piss poor. Is this maybe where he turns it around, given that he doesn't want to do this anymore?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, maybe he just takes a whole different path here. Possible.
But I also feel like, again, there's something between this statement and the beginning of House of Chains, where we see the end of Troll. The end of Troll as far as the Edur are concerned. So I almost kind of wonder, if we're going to see a couple more deaths from Rulad.
Oh, I'm sure we will.
It's kind of like, I don't, this is so stupid, but Bedazzled. The movie Bedazzled is kind of coming to my mind, right? With Brendan Fraser and that really hot, British chick. I can't even remember her name. But,
I don't even know if I've seen this movie.
Oh, it's so good. It's such a good movie.
2000. Oh, I'm looking it up. Oh, what's her name? Elizabeth Hurley.
Yep, there we go. But basically, Elizabeth Hurley is like the devil, right? And she offers Brendan Fraser's character 7 wishes. And so, but every wish goes bad, right? So each wish after that, he gets a little bit more creative and crafty in how it's worded to try to get a better deal, right?
Sure.
So I think that maybe where I'm going with this is I think that some of the deaths may even happen from his own side. You know, maybe he goes back and he's got a different viewpoint and his fellow Edur don't like it and end up killing him, or I don't know, he dies in some meaningless way, like he falls off a cliff or missteps and rolls his ankle and dives headfirst into a crevasse or something. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's more deaths, and with those deaths, as we know, he gets 10 times stronger, 10 times harder to kill. And so that is going to get to his head, and he's going to be unstoppable. And I think that's eventually what will be the Roulade that we see now.
Interesting.
All right, I digress. We can move on.
All right. I got another shorty here. They emerged onto a windswept section of beach, waves crashing onto shore, and next to them, a delta of a broad river emptying itself into the ocean. On the other side was a walled city. Seren studied it and said it was Old Catter. They were 30 leagues from Trate. How was that possible? Corlo said the Warren. It might be rotten, but it's still a Warren. Seren thought she needed to clean herself, wash herself in the sea. She stepped into the water, thigh deep, then hips. Iron bars followed with the ring and threw it into the water. In water to her chest, a wave picked her up, rolled her, and took her to shore. She could only think of getting clean. She went back to the water, deeper, covering her face. The water wanted to get inside. Hands grabbed her and pulled her back. She fought them but couldn't break loose. She kept thinking she needed to get clean. Coughing and struggling, she was dragged on shore. Iron bars told her he knew what it was about, but this wasn't the way. He told Corlo to heal her. He said he was almost done. He then told her to make her sleep. Yeah, kind of a sad little section here because Seren's she's trying to kill herself, right? She's trying to drown herself in the ocean, but I don't really understand the thought of like, I need to get clean and how that relates to your death.
I don't know how that's related either. Outside of maybe she just wants to wash away the pain, you know? Like,
I think that makes sense. Yeah, I could go with that. I could definitely get on board with that.
but it's funny because it's kind of contradictory to what you were saying earlier in the chapter about how she seems so nonchalant about it,
Yeah.
you know? But this doesn't give off nonchalance.
She's more, no, I wouldn't say nonchalant, but she still seems kind of indifferent to it. She almost seems more like determined for it here, but she just doesn't have the strength.
Do you think it could have something to do with Seren probably maybe being one of the mistresses? You know, I know there was a couple of chapters ago, or yeah, last chapter, the beginning of last chapter, where she puts her hand on that black stone as she waits for Baruch the Pale.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And they talk about her as being like one of the mistresses, and
yeah,
so,
maybe. I forgot about that.
So maybe something about, you know, this Tiste Andy that they had an accord with, her sadness is maybe overwhelming, and we know that the Taistandi are a sad race. I mean, they've been betrayed, so, and bound. Their ancestors are bound to their traitors. I'd be a little pissed off and depressed about that too.
Yeah, nice addition, man.
Thanks.
That's all I had there on that shorty, though.
Well, we'll move on to my shorty. The words, "No, you can't die, not again. I have need of you." So many layers pressing down upon hardened remnants of body tissue. A moment of vast pressure. Life was a voice, not words, but sounds, where all was still and silent. Oblivion waited when the last echo fell. Dying the first time should have been enough. This world was foreign after all. The gate was sealed, swept away. Her husband, if he still lived, was long past grief. Her daughter, perhaps a mother herself, maybe a grandmother. She had fed on draconic blood, there in the wake of Anomander. Somewhere she persisted and lived free of sorrow. It had been important to think this way, as it was the only way to fend off insanity. There were no gifts in death, except for one. Something held her back, something with a voice. The voice spoke. It said that these seas were restless. He had not thought it to be so easy. Even though she wasn't human, she would suffice. These remnants were suddenly in motion, fragments and particles too small to see, drawing together as if remembering to what they had belonged. She looked on in horror, watched as the body, so familiar but so strange, clawed its way upward through the bottom of the sea. Arms reached upwards, a body came into view. She hovered near, compelled to get closer, to enter, but it was too soon. Her body, which she had left so long ago, it was not right nor fair. Scrambling along the seabed, it walked towards the edge. Hands broke the surface, firm sand underfoot, sloping upwards, face in the air. She swept forward, dove into the body, raced like fire through muscle and bone. She felt sensations, cold and wind, the smell of salt and the shoreline. She thought to Mother Dark, I am alive. Few things. Going back to your Sandaloth Drew Corlot, she says that her husband was long past grief. We know that the Andi lived for a very long time. So I would imagine that as far as lineage goes, it's very possible that her husband and even her daughter are still living. And her daughter, could this be a hint as to your thought about Sandaloth Drew Corlot being an ancestor to Corlot? Maybe it's Corlot's mom.
Or grandmother. It's got to be.
Yeah. So again, another inspiration. You found the first piece, and I think more or less that this could be another sign that they're related. There's also a possibility that they're probably not.
I think there's something there.
I would agree. Lastly, these remnants were suddenly in motion, fragments and particles too small to see, drawing together as if remembering what they had belonged. And I feel like this is molecular and cellular regeneration, the process of coming back to life. Like on a molecular level, her body is reforming.
I really struggled with this section. It felt very out of place to me, and I think looking at your last comment here, you'll probably explain it here. It'll make more sense, which will probably help because I wasn't 100% sure what was going on.
Me neither. And it wasn't until I had to summarize it where I'm like, okay, I really need to understand what this is happening. Because if you're reading it for the first time, this is extremely confusing. And I can even imagine on subsequent read-throughs, this still may not make a ton of sense. Maybe it does because there's still plenty of the series left that we have not explored. But from what I'm gathering from the short section is that they're slowing down a little bit. Her soul is no longer bound to the Edur, thanks to the Seren and the Crimson Guard reuniting her ring with her body, connected via water, right? Obviously, her body has gone through the process of decomposition and all that stuff. The sand and the water have swept various parts of her decayed body elsewhere. But that doesn't matter because they're all connected via water. Before she could actually find oblivion or rest, she was thwarted or distracted by the crippled god's voice. I'm assuming it's a crippled god based on the very last section. And then, of course, the crippled god is reanimating her corpse from the years of decay, rejoining everything through that cellular and molecular regeneration. And then as she watches this animated corpse of herself, she's still outside of it. Like her soul is still there, unable to find oblivion because the crippled god intervened. And as the corpse comes up onto land, she dives into it, reuniting soul and body.
As you were reading it, things were starting to click a little bit, and I had a thought like, well, is she like going to be in Seren's body or something for half a second, but I don't think that's so much the case. But it popped into my head for a second.
Yeah, that's all I had. So I mean, that's kind of how you deduce that section, and it was still really cool. Like I love kind of the way that he's intricately able to do that, and I don't really think that there's an easier way to do it.
Well, I appreciate the explanation. It helps.
Otherwise, it would just be, yeah, body reformed, soul reconnected, end of section. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I almost thought about summarizing it that way.
Well, I'm glad you did. I mean, I guess I would have got the point still, but I'm glad you didn't.
So
All right. Well, you ready for my last one here?
let's do it.
All right. The voice of return came not in laughter, but screams. Everyone had gathered at the word of hearing of the emperor's death. The city was taken, but Rulad Sengar was killed. His neck snapped like a sapling, and Udinus stood guard. He didn't acknowledge anyone, just looked down at the coin-covered body. Hanan Masag, Mayan, and Featherwitch and Middick Boone, who is now, in truth, a blooded warrior, hundreds of Edur warriors, blood spattered with glory and gore. All witness to the sudden convulsions, the screams, and for a moment Rulad's neck remained broken before it fixed itself. There were more screams now, from the fleeing Litheri. Rulad's ragged scream stopped as he rose, the sword trembling in his hand. Udinus addressed the emperor and said Trate was his. Rulad told Hanan to settle the garrison. The rest of the army would sleep outside the city. Send word to the Krisnan that they are to head to Old Katter. Hanan said it was true. Rulad could not die. Rulad flinched and said, he dies. It is all he knows. And he told Udinus to leave. Man told him his tent awaited him. Middick Boone told Rulad he would lead his escort, and they would find the ones who did this to him. Rulad's eyes flashed and said he could not be defeated. They were helpless before him because he lies. Middick frowned, and Udinus said what he meant was the one who killed him. Rulad clawed at his face and said, of course. He wore crimson. Udinus told Middick he would give him a detailed description. Middick said the city would be searched. Udinus thought to himself, the man was gone. He didn't know how, but he was, with Seren. When he spoke, he said, of course. A desperate gasp, and Udinus heard his name come from Rulad. He said to take him from this place. It was known now, and soon the Sita would know. But would he understand? How could he? It was impossible, insane. Udinus thought he, the Sita, I think, could do nothing. Would he realize that? The warrior in gold trailed the slave through the fallen city, Man and Featherwitch behind, while Middick Boone and his warriors flanked them with weapons ready. Their passage was uncontested. So I had one thought on this section. So Udinus thought that he could do nothing, and I think he was in his thought he was referring to the Sita, I think, because the Sita can't do anything because even if they kill Rulad, he just comes back to life. Or Rulad can do nothing basically for the same reason, and I wasn't really sure which way that was going, but you agree with it being the Sita?
Yeah, and I think it's going to be one of those things where a lot of people are going to find out the hard way that he cannot be killed.
Yeah, they'll kill him, and I'm curious, like what kind of time frame we have here, like when he's killed to when he is reanimated. It doesn't seem like it's too long, but it feels like maybe there's a little bit of time that passed. Like I don't think it's 15 seconds. Is it 15 minutes? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I think it really depends upon how stubborn Rulad wants to be, right? I would imagine that the time between deaths is going to just get significantly shorter and shorter.
I suppose
As
his
he's
conversations with the crippled god will,
right, because he knows they're not going to amass to anything, so why argue?
Yeah,
right. He's just going to be like, "Oh, send me back." You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So I mean, there might be a moment in time where he gets tired of it. And he's like, just like fucking, I'm done, dude. Like, let me go. And of course, the crippled god, fucking asshole that he is, right? Like, not at all. Yeah. Are you ready to finish her up?
I'm ready, man.
All right. So Withel sat on a bench in his forge. This was the extent of his world. It was a mocking reminder of his profession, the purpose behind living. The crippled god whispered in his mind, He tells the Mekros that he has a gift, and he's not without sympathy, as he understands that the three knocks do not make for great company. He tells Withel to walk towards the beach and accept his gift. He sat up and thought to himself what this gift could be. A boat? Raft? A log he could ride out the tide with? He made his way outside. He walked to the verge and stood looking down. A woman was staggering from the water, tall, black, naked, long red hair. The Mekros turned around and walked away. He called his master a bastard. The crippled god spoke in Withel's mind and is genuinely confused. Was this not what you wanted, dude? Was she too tall? Her eyes are too strange? He asked how the crippled god could have done this. Take possession. The crippled god had told Withel that possession was all he knew. Things and people to be used. The crippled god responded and said that she needed his help. She was lost and alarmed by the three knocks. She is slow to recall her flesh. Withel told him to fuck off and leave them both alone. There was a soft laugh and then a quip about being disappointed, or how disappointed he was in Withel's gratitude at the gesture. Withel told his master to go to the abyss. There was no reply. Withel entered his hut. He stood facing his cot until he was certain his master was no longer lurking inside his head. Then he got on his knees and bowed his head. He hated religion and detested the gods. But the nest was empty, and it needed to be torn apart, rebuilding. He had a plethora of gods to choose from, but one was older than all the others, and he belonged to the sea. Withel began to pray in Mael's name.
Damn.
Okay, so I feel like there's a couple of maybe whoa moments here. So this part where, at one point in time, the crippled god had told Withel that his power lies in possession, and that was all he really knew. Things and people to be used, which we see, right? So here's the weird part to me is like, I can't really recall other gods doing this outside of Amanus and Cotillion, i.e. Shadowthrow. They possess Apsalar, or sorry.
Yeah.
So could that be the crippled god's influence? Are they stooping to his level? Is there a morally gray alliance between the two? Like,
I don't know.
What's this call out of possession? Like, I mean, it seems like a really low thing to do, even from a god's perspective, right? Like, if the gods are really these, quibbling pieces of shit that just try to get people to do what they want to do you think that possession is like cheating to them? Like a handicap? Like, you can't do this without possessing them? Like, come on. 2? Right? Like, or 4 and 8, as Kettle would say.
Or wasn't it 8 and 2?
It was 4 and 8, I think. Or it might be 2 and 8. You might be right.
There's many.
Oh, because it equaled 10. You're right.
Yeah. Many 8s and 2s.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just using the tools you have at your disposal.
I don't know. That whole possession thing, and it immediately brought me back to the very first chapter of Gardens of the Moon. Immediately brought me back.
With Riga?
With Riga and Sari, and now, as a consequence of that, Apsalar has Cotillion's memories. Maybe that's why people don't do possession. So I don't know if I don't know. Do you think I'm way out of line with the whole alliance thing?
I don't know that. I guess I'm not. I don't know that I would think that there's an alliance.
But a possibility? Maybe small.
Maybe
slight.
A small one.
You're telling me there's a chance?
So you're saying there's a chance?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll continue to read on. I guess I don't really care if I'm right or wrong, but that one's super left field, so we'll see what happens. Second thing, the nest was empty and it needed to be torn apart, rebuilding. So this is the significance of Mape and Puel's actions that he wasn't seeing before, right? He clearly has to do something in order for the pattern to stop, which leads him to pray.
Something different that he doesn't like to do.
Correct. Rebuilding, right? But rebuilding, and also, what do we know that Mael does? What does he do? Gothos and Mael made fun of each other for this in the prologue.
Flooding the world or whatever. Or Maybe not the world, but an area.
So do you think that Mael makes the ascent?
Maybe. Be kind of
Maybe
cool.
he comes to Whittle's aid. I don't know. Just a thought. I mean, it was funny because I'm like in Mael's name and I'm like, oh, another flood. Ha 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 ha. And then I'm like, wait a minute. What do we know about the prologue in the fourth book? It
There's
was
a
a
flood.
flooded world, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just, there's so many. This chapter was so great. There was just so many things, so many explanations, some comedic elements, some dark elements,
A little bit of everything.
a little bit of everything, and it was good. It was really good. I really enjoyed this chapter.
And now we got a shorty here next, so
A little 25 pager.
yeah. Though I will say these freaking epigraphs have gotten longer and longer, it seems.
They definitely have. This one's a whole fucking page.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to use the Malazan wiki for that one.
You're not typing that out?
Nope. Not
Okay.
at all.
Fair.
So yeah, it'll be cool. I don't know where we're going to go. I would imagine. I mean, these last two chapters kind of surrounded the Edur. So I kind of wonder if we'll go back to Lethery and get a catch up with Tahol and Bug.
Well, I think we only have 2 chapters left for this sub-book, so
Oh, really?
yeah.
And then we're down to the nighty tidies. So chapter 17. So you're saying chapter 19 or chapter 18 is the last chapter? No,
I thought it was, but I could be wrong.
19. I'm scrolling through 19. I'm not reading. I'm not looking at anything.
Oh, so we got okay. Chapter 20 is
the last subbook.
chapter 20 is the okay. All right, I was wrong. We got 3 chapters.
Yeah, I would imagine, shit's starting to ramp up, dude.
Yeah.
Starting to get there.
Well, anything else to say about this one, or are we putting her to bed?
Put her to sleep, man. Let's put her to sleep.
Well, time to read on and find out.
We'll see what we actually find out, but yeah.
I hope we go back to Bug and Tahol. I feel like it's been a couple chapters, so I'll be ready to get back to them and see what's happening. So
yeah, I wonder if they'll execute their plan, or if there's more to do with that. I know when we left off, Shirk was asking Tahol if he needed help with anything, and I think like something about the royal tombs or the treasury or the tolls or something like that.
Yeah. Harless just gonna get his scary teeth.
I don't think that's happening. I don't think he's ever gonna get his scary teeth.
Come on.
Yeah. Oh wow. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh man, well, another good episode as always, and
it's good talking to you.
Yeah, you as well.
Well, we'll do it again here sometime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I like our cadence of like a week and a half. So
yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens here. Hopefully I can, next week when I'm in Sioux Falls for work, I can knock it out.
The sections seem pretty short, so I feel like there's probably 4 or 5 each for us.
Well, we'll dig into it here and see what's up.
Sounds great. Well, as always, let me know what you think if you read it. I will probably delve when I read tonight.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I may or may not. We'll see.
Yeah, I will skip Lord of the Rings tonight. I just finished the Bridge of Khazad-dûm chapter. Yeah, so I've only got like 3 left. And then I'm on to the 2 towers.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right, man. And I'll see you around.
Sounds good, man. Have a good night.
You too, buddy.
Bye.
Boy.
DJ's Epic CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest. CNJ's Epic Quest.